Have you ever wondered where the thrilling tradition of Halloween originated? Let's embark on a journey back in time to a period over 2,000 years ago, to the lands of the ancient Celts. The Celts, who lived in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom and northern France, celebrated their new year on November 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest, and ushered in the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. The Celts believed that on the eve of their new year, which fell on October 31st, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead blurred. They celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth. To commemorate the event, they lit massive bonfires where people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. In addition to these sacred bonfires, the Celts wore costumes, typically consisting of animal heads and skins, and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. The costume tradition, they believed, would ward off roaming spirits. These were not the fun and playful costumes we associate with Halloween today, but they served a meaningful purpose for the Celts. As they gathered around the fire, the Celts also believed that the presence of the otherworldly spirits made it easier for the Druids, or Celtic priests, to predict the future. These prophecies were an important source of comfort and direction during the long, dark winter. As the flames of the bonfire flickered and danced in the dark, the Celts felt a sense of unity. They were not alone, they were together, with their community, their ancestors, and their gods. It was a time of celebration and reverence, a time of fear and joy, a time of endings and beginnings. So the roots of Halloween can be traced back to the ancient Celtic tradition of Samhain, a festival celebrating the end of harvest season. The bonfires have been replaced by candle-lit pumpkins, the animal costumes by a variety of spooky and fun outfits, and the fortune-telling by trick-or-treating. But the spirit of Samhain lives on in the Halloween we know and love today. By 43 AD, the Romans had conquered the majority of Celtic territory, and they brought their own festivals too. The Romans, having an empire that stretched far and wide, were known for their rich culture and numerous festivals. Among these were Feralia, a day in late October when the Romans traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead, and a second festival to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees, particularly the apple. Feralia, much like Samhain, was a time for the Romans to pay their respects to those who had passed on. It was believed that on this day, the spirits of the deceased would return to the earth. Families would make offerings at the tombs of their loved ones, including food, wine, and animal sacrifices. The Romans, like the Celts, believed in appeasing these spirits to ensure peace and prosperity. On the other hand, the festival of Pomona was a celebration of the harvest, with apples being a prominent feature. Pomona was the goddess of fruitful abundance, and it's her symbol, the apple, that might have influenced the Halloween tradition of bobbing for apples. Over the 400 years that the Romans ruled the Celtic lands, these festivals gradually merged with the Celtic celebration of Samhain. The lines between these distinct celebrations began to blur. Feralia, with its reverence for the dead, found common ground with the Celtic belief of spirits crossing over on Samhain. Pomona's festival, with its focus on the harvest and the use of apples, likely intertwined with Samhain's autumnal links and possibly gave birth to some of the traditions we associate with Halloween today. This fusion didn't happen overnight, of course. It was a slow and steady process, with traditions intertwining, evolving, and becoming deeply ingrained in the cultures they touched. The Romans, with their vast empire and diverse cultural practices, played a significant role in shaping the festival of Samhain and ultimately the Halloween we know today. Thus, the traditions of Samhain began to blend with Roman customs, creating a unique amalgamation of celebrations. As Christianity spread into Celtic lands in the 7th century, it brought with it another layer of influence on the tradition of Halloween. The Christian Church, in its mission to convert pagans, often incorporated local customs and traditions into its religious calendar. One such adaptation was the Christian holiday of All Hallows' Eve, a day before All Saints' Day. All Saints' Day, also known as All Hallows' Day, was a time for honoring saints and martyrs of the Church. The church was keen on replacing the pagan festival of Samhain with All Saints' Day. The effort was partly successful. The day was devoted to saints, but the evening before, known as All Hallows' Eve, still celebrated the dead. But what was All Hallows' Eve? It was a vigil, an evening of preparation for the feast of All Hallows' Day. In the Christian tradition, a vigil was often kept the night before a major festival or Saints' Day. This was a time of prayer and reflection, and in some cases fasting. It was a solemn occasion, a stark contrast to the revelry and mischief of Samhain. However, despite the church's efforts, the traditions of Samhain proved too strong to be completely replaced. The evening prior to All Saints' Day retained many of the customs of the ancient festival. Bonfires were still lit, albeit for different reasons. Costumes were still worn, although the focus shifted from placating spirits to honoring saints. The name of the holiday itself evolved over time. All Hallows' Eve was gradually shortened to Halloween, and then to the modern term we use today, Halloween. The eon in Halloween is a contraction of evening, reflecting the holiday's roots in the vigil kept on the eve of All Saints' Day. And so, from a pagan festival to a Christian holiday, Halloween evolved, retaining elements from its varied history. This amalgamation of traditions, from Celtic to Roman to Christian, is part of what makes Halloween such a rich and fascinating holiday. And as we'll see in the next scene, the journey of Halloween was far from over. As waves of immigrants, particularly the Irish fleeing the potato famine, arrived in America, they brought their customs, including Halloween. Initially, the celebration of Halloween was largely contained within the boundaries of colonial New England. There, the influence of rigid Protestant belief systems created a certain resistance to the celebration. The idea of Halloween didn't quite sit well with the austere religious ethos of these early settlers. However, the American landscape was not just made up of these stern Protestant colonies. There were also other colonies, ones inhabited by a mix of European ethnic groups. These groups came with their own customs and traditions, many of which dovetailed with the practices of Halloween. Then there were the American Indians, with their rich and varied cultural practices. As these diverse cultures interacted and intermingled, Halloween began to find a foothold in the New World. The Irish, with their ancient customs of Samhain, played a particularly crucial role in this process. The Samhain tradition of carving turnips and placing an ember within to ward off evil spirits, for instance, evolved into the familiar practice of carving pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns. The American Indians, too, contributed to the shaping of Halloween in America. Their autumnal harvest festivals, filled with stories of spirits and the supernatural, found common ground with the European Halloween customs. The concept of celebrating the harvest and honoring the dead resonated across cultures, and Halloween began to catch on. As Halloween began to take root, it also began to evolve. The holiday started to lose its religious and superstitious overtones and began to be seen more as a community celebration. The focus shifted from warding off evil spirits to community gatherings, public events, and festive celebrations. In this way, Halloween transformed from an obscure foreign custom to a widely celebrated community event. It moved beyond the home and hearth to become a public festival, a time for community bonding, shared stories, and collective merriment. Halloween began to emerge as a community-centered holiday in the United States, with parties and celebrations marking the occasion. From its ancient Celtic origins to its modern incarnation, Halloween has evolved into a community and family-oriented celebration. The traditions we associate with Halloween today, such as trick-or-treating, costume parties, and carving pumpkins, are relatively recent additions to the festival's long history. Trick-or-treating, a custom where children dress in costumes and go from house to house asking for treats, traces its roots back to medieval practices, but didn't become a widespread tradition until the mid-20th century. It is a fun and communal event that brings neighborhoods together and allows children to engage in imaginative play. Costume parties are another staple of modern Halloween celebrations. While the tradition of dressing up for Halloween can be traced back to the Celts, who wore costumes to confuse the spirits they believed roamed the earth on Samhain, Today's costume parties are less about warding off evil spirits and more about expressing creativity and having a good time. The tradition of carving pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns is another key element of Halloween. The practice originated from an Irish myth about a man named Stingy Jack, who tricked the devil and was denied entry to both heaven and hell. To guide his way in the afterlife, Jack was given a burning coal, which he placed in a carved-out turnip. Irish immigrants brought this tradition to America, where pumpkins, native to the continent, proved to be a perfect substitute for turnips. In recent decades, Halloween has become heavily commercialized, with billions of dollars spent annually on costumes, decorations, and candy. Despite this, the heart of Halloween remains the same. It's a time to embrace the spooky, to celebrate creativity, and to come together as a community. While Halloween has traveled a long road and been shaped by many influences, it remains a celebration of the mysterious, the scary, and the fun. So, why do we celebrate Halloween? Halloween, beyond the costumes and candy, serves as a poignant reminder of the thin veil separating the living and the dead. It marks the end of the harvest season, welcoming the onset of winter. More than just a spooky festivity, Halloween is a community event, a chance for us to embrace the eerie, the mysterious, and the unexplained. In essence, Halloween is a testament to mankind's enduring fascination with the unknown and the unseen. It's a unique blend of ancient customs, religious rites, and community celebration that continues to captivate us to this day.